Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm gonna be sharing with you some of my all-time favorite products and a kind of first impression of the new Tatcha Silk Powder. So if you wanna find out what my favorite products are and how to get this look, stay tuned and I will show you what I did to get the look. Makeup. So I'm using the Tatcha Liquid Silk Canvas, and I'm gonna take about one pump and just kind of dot it around. There's no real rhyme or reason or anything really. And this does do a little bit for kind of like smoothing the pores, which I like to do. Like, yeah, pores are completely normal, but I want to minimize them if I can. I don't know. Before this primer, my kind of like holy grail favorite was always the Hourglass Veil Mineral Primer. And for me, this Tatcha primer kind of does what that one does, but better, if that makes any sense at all. Let's go ahead and apply my under eye primer. I don't think you've seen me use this yet on camera, but it's one I really like when I just want to make sure everything looks its best. So this is the BECCA Anti-Fatigue Eye Primer. I was really sad to hear about BECCA closing their doors this coming September. Like, it's sad. BECCA's been such a staple. I remember back in kind of when I first got into like makeup and YouTube, I believe it was definitely Elisa Eldridge, and she talked about the liquid shimmering skin perfectors. And I remember I went to Ulta and I bought Pearl, and I think that was one of my first higher end products I bought. Maybe not, maybe I'm wrong, but anyway, I adored that product so much, and it was just like the best thing ever. The Hourglass Veil Eye Primer, just to kind of prep my eyes. So a little bit between my fingers, and just rub it across. And we can't forget a little bit of lip primer, so I'm gonna use the MAC Prep and Prime Lip. I don't know how other people do it, how they can like talk and put lip products on, because I can't. I'm gonna use the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter in number 2. The Japanesque Fluff Concealer Brush. Apply it on the top of my cheekbone, a little bit onto the apple of my cheek, then a little bit right here, a little bit on my chin, and kind of right at the temple area. So my general rule of thumb for applying highlighter is I'm gonna highlight any area I would consider getting filler, because filler brings an area forward, highlighting an area will bring it forward, so kind of the same. So think of this as your non-invasive filler alternative. And I just use that brush, kind of buff it around, go in with a damp beauty sponge. Today I'm trying out this Eco Tools. Haven't used this one before, but a sponge is a sponge. Actually, that's not true. There are some sponges out there that aren't that great. This one's really soft, but I just kind of like to go through and press it into my skin. This will remove some of the product, but it's gonna take off any harsh lines and smooth out the look. The Huda Beauty Tantour, and I'm using Shade Fair. Real Techniques contour brush. Any kind of fluffy dome shaped brush will work well for this. Take off the excess on the back of my hand. You can see that's a lot of product that comes off. And once again, think of, I applied that highlight here to add volume. So I want to shade under that to make this kind of pop out. So I'm gonna kind of press and go up. So there you go.
Same thing on the other side, just kind of press it in.
So I just take whatever's left of my brush, run down my nose. Whatever's left, kind of start on, like, place the brush where you did your nose contour, drag it through your brow and through your socket. This is gonna help give you the most kind of seamless, connected look. And also by kind of giving that little lift, you're gonna kind of create the illusion of a little bit of an eye lift.
There you go.
hairline is not where it used to be. So I like to use a little bit of a contour product to pull any of the recession area back to the highest point. Be careful. You don't want to make your forehead look like it's teeny tiny. So now wipe off any product on a clean spot in your hand, go back to that first place and kind of buff. Take your sponge, circular blends over. For cream blush, I'm going to use the Bobbi Brown Pot Rouge in Powder Pink. And what I like to think about here is I applied my highlight up here, my contour down here, and the blush color for me goes right in between the two. My finger is going to overlap both, but that's fine. All the products I've applied so far are products that I used on my wedding day, so clearly I like if I trust them for that. I'm going to use my contour and my highlighting brush.
So the contour brush, I'm just going to use to kind of buff along the top edge. Use my contour brush to buff along the lower.
And what's in the middle, I'm not going to really worry about blending out because I'm going to cover it with my foundation. And if I blend too much now, I'm not going to get the effect I want. Use your beauty sponge, go over the top. I'm going to take 2 pumps of the IT Cosmetics Your Skin But Better foundation. I use shade Light Neutral 20.5. This is the Chanel Ultra Le Tint Velvet, and I have B20. So for that one, I'm gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 drops of the Chanel. Mix those two together.
And kind of put it on.
IT Cosmetics Heavenly Luxe, number 7. And I'm just gonna bounce that into place. And I like to kind of stipple or bounce this part into place because if I start kind of swiping, I'm gonna move around those cream products I put under. I mean, stippling like this, you are gonna still move it, but it will do a little bit better of keeping it in place than if I buffed.
Stipple and cover everything.
Right now, it doesn't have to be perfect because you got your sponge. Go back and buff over. So this flat edge makes it really easy to blend over products. This is always nice because you can kind of see this foundation is being soaked up by the sponge, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. So by doing that, you are kind of absorbing the product that just sits on top of the face. And the more product you kind of have sitting on top of your face, the more product can settle and crease throughout the day. I always like to kind of blend down because as I've gotten older, my hair has gone from like a dark brown to like a blonde, and now I'm going like gray. Joy. But I have to be very careful around like the perimeter of my face because now if it gets in my hair, you can see it, and I have like an orange like stripe on the side of my head, which isn't fun. Charlotte Tilbury Under Eye Corrector, I use number 1. And for me, I'm just gonna kind of place it right there. You can get away with this color on its own and not use a separate concealer, but I like for a special occasion, which I've got nowhere to go today, but if I was this type of look that I do, I always like to layer it because I like to brighten up that area, and adding that little bit of brightness is going to help kind of bring harmony to my face, my neck, and my hands. The Hourglass Vanish concealer brush and stipple over. So I always like to start at the inside corner of my eye and blend. And I don't drag my brush. I always like to stipple over. The Tarte Creaseless Concealer in 20N one. So a little bit here. Like I just kind of tap it on. So one dip
I want the most coverage here. Balance it over. So, once again.
Oh, also, when you're out here at this outer corner of your eye, I like to kind of pat up towards the tail of my brow. So imagine your brow is extending down this way. So create an imaginary line and then do another line kind of from your lower lash line extending up and blend that way. Kind of like if you think that's kind of like the same angle you would wing your eyeliner out. But I like to do it because it gives you a little bit of an eye lift. That's why I like this brush. So you can kind of see it's got an angle to it. So I'll kind of press in and kind of pull that concealer up just before where that contour is I placed. Even though I applied my concealer just under here, I kind of pull it down as I blend. So even though I'm getting that kind of brightness down here, there's no actual, there's transience amount. There's a little bit of product, but I didn't apply it there directly because I don't want to emphasize any enlarged pores in that area. So for this part, I'm just kind of using the brush like I would my beauty sponge. This sponge, so it's got this larger flat side and it's got a smaller flat side. Wow. That's very convenient for getting under the eye. And even when I go to blend that concealer, I still go up. I'm working on my lower eye. It's so hard to talk. Pat McGrath Lab under eye powder in light and a Morphe times Jaclyn Hill JH04 brush. So get a little bit. So once you let up your brush, tap it off. All that powder, too much. Too much and this powder gets weird. But use a little bit, it's wonderful. So blend over again and then kind of press, like pressing motion, and go outwards. I say go outwards because that's what works best for me because my kind of fine lines go out this way. They're more like in a horizontal line. So blend in the direction of the line because if I start going down, it's going to make it look weird. Not look weird, but it can emphasize, and I don't want to emphasize anything. I get oily, I get shiny, so I am going to use a little bit of powder, and I don't really have like a holy grail fail-safe powder that I set with, so I ordered this one, and I'm gonna try it out. Tatcha Silk Powder. Excited, first time I've used this, it just arrived in the mail. Okay, you've got a little bit of like a yellow tone, but that shouldn't be bad. And also today, I'm using my favorite brushes. So these are the brushes that I go to time and time again. So for my powder, I'm gonna use my La Mer powder brush, kind of do a little swirl. If you remember the old Bare Minerals infomercial, so I'm gonna swirl, tap, and then I'm gonna press over. This is impressive. So I always like to kind of stipple on the layer powder and then I'll go through and buff. Nice looking powder. I don't know. I have to wear it a few times before I can say whether you need to run out and buy this, but it looks nice on the skin. It's not adding any texture. It's not emphasizing any type of dryness or dehydration. It just looks like a nice loose powder, and it does have a slight yellow tint. So for me, I don't mind because it's going to neutralize my face a little bit, but so far so good. I'm going to use a little bit of my Charlotte Tilbury Flawless Setting Spray.
I will do multiple layers of setting spray.
Laura Mercier Matte Radiance and Highlight 01. Be using the Sonia G Fan Pro brush. Kind of same place I applied that Charlotte Tilbury liquid highlight, I'm gonna apply this. So on my cheekbone, and I'm gonna buff. Remember, I like to get those temples because as we get older, we lose some volume in that area. So for this part, I don't add it up here on my nose, but I will take a little bit right over the very center of the bridge. This buxom white Russian. Pick up some more. And what I like to do is kind of tilt my head, find where the light hits. So right here is where the light hits the most for me. And I'm just gonna buff right into that area. So you can see there, that light's coming through. There you go. So that one's got a lot more intensity than the other one does. And that's why I'm concentrating this one just on that highest point. So right here. Hourglass Ambient Lighting Bronzer in Nude Light. I'm going to be using the IT Cosmetics Heavenly Luxe Wand Ball Powder Brush number 8. So pick up a little bit of that, tap it off. I like to do large circles. I don't like to go below this point right here. So my cheekbone here where I contoured is down here. I like to stay above that because for me, contour and bronzing are very different things. If that's different for you and you don't mind using a bronzer color to contour, then go ahead and you can take it lower. But for me, I like to keep them separate because I use very different kind of colors. So right over the forehead. 2 blushes I'm going to be using are Charlotte Tilbury's Original Pillow Talk and then Hourglass and Sublime Flush. So I'm going to start off with the Charlotte Tilbury, pick up a little bit, and then just kind of apply it wherever you like to apply your blush. So I like to kind of start back here so most of the pigment's here, take it to the ball of my cheek and wrap around behind. And then I'll play with my motion. Sometimes I'll go forward, sometimes I go back. And I like to wrap that into my temple. There you go. I love this color so much. This is the IT Cosmetics Heavenly Luxe French Boutique Blush Brush. I'll have all of my brushes and products I use listed down below, just in case I forgot to mention anything's name. I'm gonna pick up a little bit more, tap off. And so think about, we applied our highlight here, bronzer here, just to keep it looking consistent. I'm gonna apply kind of center forehead down, a little bit over my nose, a little bit over my chin, and then buff. So you can almost do like a rainbow motion if you want to. I'm gonna go in with that Hourglass Ambient Lighting Blush in Sublime Flush. Use my same blush brush, pick up product, tap it off. And this one, we're gonna only apply on the cheek. So what I like to do is look straight ahead, go right to the center of the eye, and pop it right on the cheek. And you can kind of carry it back a little bit. There you go. In this color, I'll kind of drag it down, almost like in a triangle shape. This color does have a little bit of a luminosity to it, so it's gonna kind of help pump up the roundness of the front of the cheek, which is nice because it can make the cheek look a little bit fuller, almost like a little bit of a cheek filler effect, which is something I had done once. I keep debating on doing it again, but then I'm like, I didn't really notice it when I had it, so who knows? Maybe I'll get it done again, maybe I won't. I like to tap over with my sponge just to make sure everything's kind of pushed back, so you can already see there side to side. It's a lot more toned down here, but I'm going to tone it down even further. Keep the color intensity where it is. You can spray another layer of your setting spray, but for me, I'm not going to. I'm just gonna go right in and do one of my favorite things, which is buffing. So again, I'm gonna use the La Mer powder brush, and I'm gonna use the Charlotte Tilbury Magic Powder, and I use the shade One Fair. So take that, pounce it over your skin, and since I don't have any type of eyeshadow or eyeliner on, I take it right over my eye. Pick it up again, so swirl, tap, and then we're not gonna buff, we're gonna stipple. Once you've stippled in, pick up a little bit more. Now you're gonna, this time you're gonna swirl, tap, and you're gonna buff. Use MAC Fix Plus. This is in the Rose. Rose is my favorite. Rose are the original.
Mix the face, give it.
And my rule of thumb is when you think you've sprayed enough, spray more. There you go. You should almost feel like you just took a shower. But you're gonna go back in with your beauty sponge very gently. So don't have a very firm grasp on it. Lightly hold the sponge and just press over your face. That's just gonna help meld everything together. My kind of MAC palette that I made. Hourglass flat shader brush. This is number 3. I'm gonna use MAC in Blanc type. I have no idea if this shade is still available, but last time when I worked at MAC it was still available as like a pro pan. But this shade, use any color that is close to your skin tone. Goss number 17 brush, and I'm gonna go into this shade right here, which is MAC Omega. I like to tilt my head back. So imagine that line from the lower part of your lash line to that tail of your brow where they would end. So there. So I don't want to apply my shadow any further out than this point right here. So place it right there, tilt my chin back, and I pull this into the front of my eyebrow.
There you go.
So this part is really subtle. And once you have it on, just big circles, big windshield wiper motions. Goss number 16, no product on it. I always like to have a blending brush that is free of any product. So you can just buff. Like, keep your pressure very loose on the brush, because you don't want a lot of pressure. This is just kind of blend, take off any harsh edges. And also move your head. It sounds silly, but move your head as you're doing your application, and it will allow you to kind of see things at different angles. So, minor issue, I have no idea what this color is. It might be espresso, but I'm gonna use Wayne Goss number 19 in what I think is MAC Espresso. And I'm just gonna take it right on the very tip of my brush. Tap this part off, lift your brows, find where you want your crease line to be the darkest. So right here, little circles. And you want this color to not go as far out or as far in as the other. So kind of keep it right in the middle. And just kind of blend back and forth. And when I press my brush in, I don't go straight in, I'll kind of go in and up slightly. So kind of keep your brush at a 45. And this is kind of setting your natural socket line. So right above, kind of like I like to use the roundness of my eye as my guide. So my brush is angled up and in towards my socket. And then I'll do my back and forth, and then just small, tight, controlled motions, little circles. Go back in with your brush that you just used. So this was our number 17. This is the brush that you applied that lighter color with. Lift your brows and just go over that line to soften it. There, where this eye went from looking heavier, now it looks like I have more lid space, and it looks like my eye's lifted where my eye is actually quite hooded and downturned. So makeup is all an illusion. We're gonna take that clean brush used again, and this is our brush that's reserved only for blending. Sometimes what I like to do is, I don't normally put shadow under my eye, but I'll take my brush, put it kind of under the middle of my eye, and then almost do like a semicircle. Because what that's going to do is it's going to, just as the blend goes, it's going to help kind of lift and pull that color in. So it's almost creating like a halo effect around the eye. And then when I place that brush here, it's going to be depositing a little bit of that color that I'm carrying over from the top. So it's a good way to kind of connect your upper and lower lash line without having to do a lot of extra work. Wangoss number 18. Another color, I have no idea what it's called, but it's kind of like a kind of more neutral pinky shade. A little bit of a shimmer. I'm gonna put this just over the very center of my movable eyelid. So the part right here over my lid. Tilt my chin back. Oh, this is all that glitters. There's no real rhyme or reason. You're just wiping it all over your eyelid. So pretty much from where that darker color in your crease stopped, you're applying it from there down to your lash line. And this is called MAC Soba. So I'm gonna place it right here. So remember that line, remember where you wanted to keep your color the darkest, place it there and drag it in. So I'm gonna place it there and drag towards the middle of my eyelashes. Place at that angle where you want where you put your color out when you want it the darkest, and drag it from there right towards the middle of your eyelashes. We're gonna go back in with that clean blending brush.
Buff those edges.
What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna actually take my face highlighter on a small brush. This is a Wangoss number 20, and I'm just gonna apply it right to my inner tear duct. And you can even drag it under a little bit. Take my bronzer. I'm just gonna lift my eye, tilt my head back, buff around this edges. I'll even take it under my eye a little bit and kind of sketch out my shape. Go. It's gonna look a little like intense right now, but it's okay. Another step I like to do is I like to use a little bit more of that Charlotte Tilbury setting powder that I used to buff my face on that Wangoss number 16 that we've been keeping clean. Pick up a little bit of the powder, tap it off, and then now go just on that kind of perimeter of the eye and really buff.
Blend between your face and your eye.
I like to do this next little trick, and you can use any face powder that you want to. My favorite tends to be the MAC Mineralized Skin Finish. I use the shade Light Plus, and I like to use my flat shader brush, the very first eye brush I use. Pick up a little bit, tap it off, and I'll go right under. So imagine where that, right there. And I'll just use this to sharpen up any edges. Artiste Linear 1, and I'm going to mix together my Omega eyeshadow, and I'll mix a little bit of Omega and Espresso. Tap that brush, so I'm going to set it kind of, I like to look down in a mirror, place it right over the center of my eye, and then buff. And then sometimes I'll even take my brush and then pull that color from the outside back into the center. So I just throw in a little bit of mascara to my top lashes, and I use my favorite CoverGirl Clump Crusher Water Resistant Mascara in Black Brown. I'm going to use the IT Cosmetics Brow Power Powder and the Hourglass Angled Liner Brush.
And just kind of want a little bit of color for them.
And when I get to the inside part of my eye, I'll take my brush with whatever's left on it, place at the bottom of where my hairs grow, and kind of flick it up. I'm going to try the new Huda Beauty Brow Pencil, and I have two light neutral, and I'm just going to place it at the start of my brow at the lower part, and then just try to draw some little hairs. Oh, wow. This is doing really, really nice. Brows are on. It's throwing me off because when I look in my mirror, everything looks like really soft, but in camera, it looks really intense. I'm still not used to doing this whole like makeup on camera thing, so yeah. To finish off the look, I'm just gonna use a little bit of MAC lip pencil in Dervish.
Instead of 4, when I get to my outer corner, I kind of put the pencil inside my mouth and then drag under.
Same thing on the top, start inside and drag up. I like to kind of focus my kind of any type of pencil on the kind of center outwards of my lips, because if I go all the way in, it mixes with the darker pigment in the lower of my lip and it gets really makeup-y looking. I don't love that. So I'm going to use MAC, this is a MAC Luster lipstick in the shade Patisserie.
And black.
It's kind of like a My Lips but better stain. It's got a little bit of a blue undertone, so that's going to help brighten up the teeth a little bit. And then to finish it off, one of my favorite products of all time, Chanel Rouge Cocoa Gloss in the shade Aphrodite. One more pass with the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Setting Spray.
And with your beauty sponge.
Alrighty, so here is the finished look. We've got a little bit of eye, we got a little bit of cheek, we got some lip. We got to try out this new Tatcha Silk Powder together. Everything blended on top of it really nicely. Might have added a little bit more of a yellow tone to my overall finish and complexion, but I don't really mind because I can benefit from a little bit of yellow color correction to offset some of the pinky red tone in my face. Really like this, really glad to have it in my collection, and it's a very welcome part because I love the rest of the kind of silk product from Tatcha. It's still throwing me off though, because when I look in my own mirror, it's like kind of a soft gradient smoke from light to dark. And in the camera, it looks a lot more intense than it is. Well, there, if I lift my eyelids to an unnatural position, then you can kind of see what it looks like. But, oh well, I like it either way. I don't mind a little bit of a smoky eye. Doesn't really go with my outfit, but oh well. And, I enjoyed kind of like getting to chat, not being so scripted, kind of getting to show you what I love, why I love it, and one of my favorite looks. If you haven't already, I would greatly appreciate it if you subscribed, give the video a thumbs up, and let me know more of what you would like to see coming forward into the future. Anyway, I will see you on the next one. Bye!